have had a heart attack as I was doing all of this.
As long as they hear you. I think
You're
that's
so
the
far
most.
away. We feel sad. Move forward. Okay. Alright, so guys, we did Mel put her stuff, or did I already put it away? Did you see? Yes. And here's my ugly map.
Thank you. It's from H&M. It's a clap.
Can you just take that down? Thank you.
Is it? I hate it when they do that.
6. Can you take one and pass it down, please?
Thank you.
Okay, so is that register doing the rounds?
So kind of you.
Register moving along? Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, so let me speak to you about these marks for copy preparation and proof correction. I better remember to put these in Merle's little drawer later on. Okay. Hello, there we go. Take this, please. Thank you. By the way, I did get time to look at these, and they're still too long, okay, but they've been much more interactive with this text. So,
Just have the same
but I wanted to copy.
I was like, cool. Yeah, the hieroglyphics are actually there's a story above it, and they're complaining.
What did we have last time? Someone was here with me right at the end, and we found something.
It's like you
That somebody had left behind. It wasn't anything big. It wasn't like a precious jewel or anything, but it's actually taken a walk, which interests me. Why would that take a walk? Anyway. All right, so this is what you're going to prepare for next week. Okay, so what are we doing now? What is it called? Okay, so what you did for your homework was you are assessing a manuscript. Okay. Okay, we're going to talk about that just now. And what else we've been doing? We've been doing editing of, okay, the bios. The bios are not books, but they're the kinds of things you will edit. Okay, in the form of a back cover blurb or in the form of marketing material, you often get to do that. Especially when you start out in publishing. Often you get a job as a marketing assistant, and it's very lowly and it's appallingly paid, and it shouldn't be allowed to happen as it does in the publishing industry, and I've spoken up about it many times and been given a very cold reception. So anyway, it's the same kind of stuff. You learn a lot. Okay, so if that's all you can get, grab it, because it's very good to start at the other end of the production process. Okay, when actually the book is out and it's being marketed, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about why the book is produced, because often editors they see the value of the material, they see, is it well written, is it interesting, is it beautiful, have I gotten rid of errors? Okay, so they see the value of the product, but they don't see when it ends up on the shelves and how it's marketed. So very good eye-opener, and you learn all sorts of good skills doing that. Okay. And every editor's got to be able to do some writing at some stage, especially if you're doing heavy editing, or whatever you want to call it. We discussed that last week, all the different terms you could use for structural editing, or I can't remember the term they use in that reading I gave you. Substantive, thank you. Okay, substantive, structural, heavy, mild rewrite. These are all possible descriptions. But usually you'll be told when you're given the job, what will you be told? It's a light edit.
But they don't always mean that.
Yeah.
Or it's a proofread. Well, usually it's through ignorance. If it's done through a desire to do you out of some money, that's good. Because then they know what it's about and they know they're ripping you off. And that means that they understand what your job consists of. It's one of the hardest things in editing and publishing. People just don't understand what you do. And I'll give you a nice little reading that I found again. It's called What Do Editors Do? And it starts off saying, everybody wants to know, why does editing take so long and why does it cost so much? Okay, so if you've got someone who's got a vague idea of why it takes so long and why it costs so much, that's fine. If they're trying to rip you off, you can always work around that. The deadly part is the person who commissions you and doesn't have the faintest idea of what your job entails. Okay. So it could come from ignorance about the language. It could come from not understanding what well-structured text is with good logic. It could come from anything. It could come from having been good at English at school and having a quick look and saying, oh, I can do that, and then handing it over to somebody else without really engaging with the text. Okay, so I'm just telling you about these things because they are real possibilities in the real world out there when you're actually doing a job. You need to be able to maneuver around these things if you can. So you suggest to me a way, okay, somebody phones you and they want this done for once. Now just imagine it. Okay. So where were we before the giggling girls? Oh, yes. How would you get around it? Okay. Any tricks up your sleeve? You get given this job. Okay, for once the deadline isn't too shocking. That's what I was going on about. At the time I was interrupted. And then, so you say, okay, I can do it. And then they say it's a light edit or it's a proofread. Okay, now you take a good look at it and you see that it's not that at all. What are you going to do?
Call back and say it requires more work than I expected. Would you still like me to proceed?
Okay, yes. And what can you do to strengthen your arm?
Do the first page.
Good. Is the first page always the best? Okay, yes, for some people, they start writing and then they get going later on. So their first page is weakest. Okay?
Oh, did you mean the best as in, I think you
Yes.
meant the best as in less,
No.
the least grammatically?
No, the best as in to show them as an example of what work you actually need to do. Okay? So for some people it is the first page because they only take a while to warm up and then actually you think, oh, okay. For other people it's completely different. They've gone through page number 1 10 times, but they're stuck at 3, so, you know, and then they rush it off. So you need to take the time, and you don't want to do that often. Hey? You just want to say, yes, thank you, okay, and then I'll just deal with it later. And you don't take a good look at it, and then you say, no, it's fine. And then as you work, you feel what? Exhaustion and resentment coming along. Okay, because you're now working for basically nothing. It can happen that you do an edit, and at the end you earn 2,000 Rand, and while it might sound fantastic, now as you're sitting at this desk at Varsity, you know, if it's a long project and it's taken up 10 days, half the month, okay, no. You might say to yourself, okay, well, my husband is supporting me, I'm still living at home, I've got some savings from when I was working in my first year after school, and I'm going to take whatever comes my way, and I'm just going to develop confidence, and I'm going to just do whatever it takes. That's fine, okay? But most of us can't afford to do that, so you've got to be able to say, I need to earn a living. And because people that feel that it's not really work, if you let them get away with too much, you're going to end up feeling as if you were not really doing work. It happens to me at times, and I think, oh, well, maybe it's not worth that much really, it's just a, you know. And then that's where track changes are just fantastic, because you are reminded of just everything you've actually done. Okay. Plus, don't forget, there's all the paperwork and the accepting the job and the going back and the signing the contract, and all those little things add up to a lot of office time, which nobody else is taking care of for you. Okay, even if you decide to print the job afterwards, it's your cartridge. I sound like a miser, but it's not that. It mounts up so quickly. It's your cartridge, it's your paper, it's your time. Okay.
Since you said, sorry.
I was just going to say, could you give us an estimate about what you would charge them, including all of those things, the contract time and the, or is it just per?
There are rates, and they've been put out by the South African Freelancers Association of South Africa, SAFRIA. They tend to be, there are a lot of creatives among them, among the SAFRIANs, okay. Lots of writers, lots of people who work in the movies, camera people, graphic design people, so they tend to do the editing as part of the job and do these other things, some of which you don't even find on that Australian guidelines that I gave you. Okay, there are other branches. So they tend to do fewer jobs per year, okay, because it's harder to get the work. So their rates tend to be too high, so, which makes it very difficult because nobody else is doing rates at the moment. Another problem with rates is that they haven't gone up in the past 10, 15 years. So when I was managing editor, not managing editor, editorial manager, so I had some clout. I paid my freelancers better than what other people were paying them, a little bit better. I understood that it's hard to be a freelancer, and I understood the extra costs that people never charge for. So I did that. Now, since then, which is about 14 years ago since I left, the rates are the same. And they're still in some circles considered to be a little bit too good. Okay, so you're up against a lot. Business is different. Some people charge up to 600 Rand an hour, but then you've got to be their slave, basically. You're there, it doesn't matter whether you work inside or you work at home, but you're just there. If they phone you at 11 and they say the boss in the UK needs to see the introduction to the annual report that you've already edited 4 times, you know, you're out at dinner, it's 9 o'clock and they need it by 11, you're going to say, goodbye everybody, sorry. You know, take your stuff in a takeaway box and go home and finish it. Okay, so that's the kind of pressure that you're under. Also, they all join in to write the reports, a lot of these people on the team in a business. So it's called cooperative work, and it's lovely, and it can yield great results, except that they can't remember what version they've actually got. So you send them a beautifully edited text, and then now they want to make extra changes or not talk about certain are, or they want to add in stuff because there's been this wonderful news or whatever, put it this way. Okay, so now, instead of taking the latest thing where you made all your changes, they revert back to original document. Okay, grotty, original document. And now suddenly you're re-editing everything. It's crazy, okay? So you need, and you end up feeling despised and uncared for, but actually, it's just a complete lack of basic logic. All right. And also when they do the annual reports, I mean, they throw money out the door. I mean, it's just, nothing is too much. 500,000 Rand, 600,000 Rand. And that's for a report that most of the time is only going to be printed, is only going to have a few copies printed. Most of it's actually going to go up on the website. Okay, so, yeah, there are lots of different rates. You've got to find your niche. The best thing is to do work for someone who comes to rely on you and just go, oh, Wendy, she's reliable, I'll use her. Okay, and sort of offers you the job, and usually you'll squeeze them in because if you don't, they might forget about you. They are fickle, they're under a lot of pressure, and they might reallocate the work. Okay, so you've got to learn the tricks of the trade. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, so it's mostly ignorance, but it's hard not to feel despised and unloved when this happens to you all the time, and no one knows what I'm doing or understands what my life is like as an editor. Which is why it's good to join organizations like Professional Editors Guild. And as a student, you can do so for a very reduced rate, and you can come to some of the workshops that they run and some of the social gatherings that they run, and then you can get to know how much editors moan about how life is as an editor. One of the reasons why editors do this is they often work in a very isolated environment. It's you and your text, okay, a lot of the time. That's why if you remember the job of managing editor, where you are working on documents, but you're actually spending more time sort of checking that everything's going through the right phases and that this has happened and that. That's a bit of a breather, and that's easier to handle than constant editing. Having said that, there are some people who just want to be in their corner. They love working on the text. They want to be left alone, and that's what they do. They're editors, they're proofreaders. Okay. Any questions? I know I keep on giving you the grotties, okay? I know that, but I'm not going to say it's all about sitting down and editing a novel that's beautifully written. You make the occasional little change. You look for a beautiful cover. That's what life is like, okay? It's hard work, very varied, not that well paid. You need to make your mark. You need to find ways of showing people why they're wrong in giving you 2 days to edit 100 pages of badly written stuff, and why you need to do more and why they need to pay you more. Okay, why you need to call what you're doing by its right name, because having done that will already liberate you psychologically. Okay, gentlemen, yes.
I wanted to ask those costs that aren't your costs that you generate
Yes.
by virtue of doing the work. Shouldn't you
Yes.
charge for them separately?
Yes.
Okay. Now the second point I want
But you don't. You should. But you don't. Because people are not interested in that. Because all they can think about, you lucky, lucky person. You're working for yourself. You're working from home. I have to go in every day and I have to put up with this stuff. Okay, so you don't. So you budget it. You work it into.
Oh, you work it
Okay.
into the fees.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. And then the other thing is, since it is so difficult to estimate the actual costs of editing work, if you sign a contract, there is a fee, and you do the work, and you find that you've probably done about 10% more. Perhaps what I'll do do is that I'll still send it, my invoice based on the contract, but I'll send another pro forma invoice showing the actual work done, so that they know that in future that is
That
what-
doesn't go down well, because that's like rubbing their faces in it. Okay. So Wilson, I would say no. But if you're going into it, and really most of what you were given initially to look at is at a certain level, and now you've hit a patch and let's say it's 3 chapters that are, you didn't see them before, and they are horrendous. Now's the time to pick up the phone and say, listen, I can't meet that deadline, because what you've sent me now is basically like rewrite or heavy editing or whatever you want to call it, but I've looked at it carefully. It's going to take me a lot. There are factual errors. And you've got to give them, the stuff that interests them. So if it's school books, and you say the arguments are wrong, there are factual errors, immediately they're going to go, oh, no, can't have that in school books. Okay, obviously. Or the material is if you work against a curriculum, you'll say the vocabulary is at grade 9 level, not grade 5 level. Okay, that's again, alarm bells and warning lights, etc. So it depends who you're dealing with and what you're saying to them. But if you take pride in your work and you want to do a good job and you don't want to be ripped off, you need to pick up the phone and say, look, okay, unforeseen, alarm bells, what are we going to do about it? Would you like, and usually they'll say, give me some time, I'll have a look, I'll discuss it with my senior, and then they come back to you. Okay, so all that other time that you spend, you've got to make a living, right, if you're a full-time editor. Now, if you're interested, there's a fantastic chapter in this book called The Editor's Companion by Janet McKenzie. I will make you a photocopy. Don't worry, Janet will give me permission, it's fine. It's another of these Australian books. They've just been at it for a long time, and they're very practical kinds of editors, and they've also had a lot of government support in terms of dictionaries and the right terminology to use, and it's very detailed, their support. Okay. And of course I've only ever had English to worry about, so it makes life, well, I'm simplifying it a bit, but basically, which makes life much easier. So Janet McKenzie, The Editor's Companion. Second edition, there is a third edition, but the second edition is fine. But I'm also happy to send you a scanned copy. What she does is in her very last chapter, I think, she looks at how to run your business as an editor. So what she says is, in winter you need to heat yourself, in summer you need to cool yourself. You need to go on holiday, you need to take breaks or you'll go crazy. It's a very demanding job. You have to have office space, you've got printer, you've got paper, cartridges, you've got electricity. It may feel like it's not a lot, but it does add up. Okay, so you can get something off your tax for all of that, but you also need to, because you'll never get all of it back by a tax rebate, and you might actually not get your rebate for various reasons. If you're traveling a lot for a client, let's say you go out twice a week and you travel quite somewhere, you should be keeping track of all your petrol costs. Okay, and wear and tear on your car. All of that is important. And you should work some of that into your rate. Okay, this is the kind of thing that you can do when you're a bit better established. Okay, but she's kind of worked it all out. So she includes insurance for loss of your hand, let's say. Okay, which makes it very hard to work as an editor. Sudden blindness. I mean, she's got those kinds of costs. And I know that as mostly young people around this table, it doesn't seem important, but actually it can be. Okay, so if you were at work, you would have medical aid. Now you're paying it yourself. You would have pension, you've got to look after that. Just, so I just feel that her chapter is realistic, unusually realistic, and I'm very happy to. I can't go into it in big detail in this short course, but get hold of the book, it's useful, or let me do a scan for you, and it'll be a resource. It's just great to go back to. And I can tell you that I've used her book in meetings with editors, and people just, oh yes, okay, people don't think about this. You don't. You kind of set up, and you're sort of going, and then you get your first pay check, and you go, well, not pay check, but whatever, your invoice is paid, and now you can go to Pick and Pay and buy a few things, and you get very excited and carried away. But if you don't run it properly, you're going to get into a spiral. So if I tell you that editorial rates haven't gone up in 14 years, I'm not being a drama queen. I'm not, it's true. Okay, so in business it has gone up probably. What was paid $2.50 an hour is probably now paid $4, and what was paid $4 is probably paid $5.50. So, yeah, there has been some. It's kind of followed. Sometimes I think it's too highly paid, but what's going to happen? And it actually happened to me at one stage. I realized that I had to take action because over the years, your income, you're sort of well known. You're doing all this work. You've got this reputation, and you're thinking, well, where's the money? It's not that I want to go to Honolulu or whatever, I want to have one weekend off in a month. That would really be nice. Okay, so, what is for discussion? And editors themselves are surprised, but I will make you that copy because it's a fantastic resource to have. And you should think about it, and even if you can't live fully by it, it gives you courage to, think about what you need to do. Look, it's different. I mean, it depends. Let's say you're a stay-at-home mother, your kids are now 8 and 6. You can actually work from home without having to worry too much about nappies and the basics of life. So you start, and someone else is bringing in an income, and it's a decent income, and you get into it slowly, and you're happy to do the work. It's interesting. Okay. And you're happy with the rate, and that's fine. Okay, really, it is fine. And you say to yourself, you know what, I work from home. If the kids are sick, I can stay at home. If I've spent the whole night at the hospital with a child with croup, it doesn't matter if I'm not that sharp the next morning. It's cool. I don't want necessarily to earn a good income. I just want for the extras. I want this for extras for the family, things we can't afford otherwise. So it all depends on where you're coming from, what you want. So you can go from little extras to full-on career, and that will entail different things and make you do different things. Okay. Yeah.
Please,
Yes.
please, so how would you advise us as entrants or new entrants to say, for us to penetrate, how much should we charge? And then again, the hourly based charge. You concur with me that in terms of reading, some have slow pace, others are a bit faster, and that do we have alternative to say?
Yes, we
based on
do.
pages
We
and-
do. So closer to the end, I will bring you the Safria rates. And then there's a whole breakdown. So it's everything from rewriting, heavy editing, this kind of thing. But they tend not to go too much into categories. So they'll look at broad categories, rewriting, rewriting, editing, proofreading, design, typesetting, that kind of stuff.
online also.
And what they tend to do now, because that's what people are, I mean, I like working by the hour because I think that's a fair reflection. But it can also get rid of a lot of hassles to just charge by the word or by the page. Don't charge by the page though, but I'll discuss that with you then. Because why should you not charge by the page?
Pages can have a lot of lines.
Yes. Some pages are 250 words, other pages are 350, 380. Some pages are 550 words. Okay, so there again, be very, very wary that people, they don't think about it. They give you the job and they think, oh, 20 pages. But 20 pages of this, double-spaced, this kind of font, isn't the same as 20 pages of that. Okay. So these are all things that seem very obvious. Are you okay? Yeah. You look a bit
It's
tired.
that 4 o'clock nap that I'm...
And you know what? You haven't taken my advice because I don't see any of you nibbling on anything. I had 6 squares of chocolate before I came. I couldn't do it otherwise. I mean, you must bring yourselves a bit of sustenance, I really think, because it's, you know, there's nothing.
They were handing out donuts for breakfast at work, so I
Oh.
had extreme highs of
When was this?
this morning. Yeah.
Why didn't you bring us all donuts? You really are very selfish. We're not impressed with you. Okay, so I got sidetracked, but these are very, very important issues. I mean, it's not worth me just taking the course and showing you the refinements of language. Okay, it's a job. It's a lovely job in many ways. It's demanding. So I will bring stuff at the last lecture, and we'll just talk about all of that. And I'll say to you, okay, these are Safria's rates. Here I think they're spot on. Here I think you could go down a bit. And here I think you could go down a whole lot. Okay, so for example, they've got a rate for editing for business reports. And actually one of their members has cornered the whole market. And he charges whatever he wants. So he thinks it's fine to have a rate of 600 Rand an hour.
He's the only one doing the job, he can charge what he wants.
Exactly. So it's not reflective, which is why I've bitched at them and I told them it's about time you involved other language organizations. You know, so they are. So we have made some headway, but in the meantime our rates are unrealistic. They all tend to be a little bit high, but you know, I'll be able to tell you I think the market can carry that. Okay. Depends. Are you working for a friend? And that's another thing. Oh, you're an editor. I want to have a quick look at my dissertation. 300 pages later. No, sorry. How can you turn that down? You need to have an arsenal of responses. How could you turn that down?
It's unethical. It's unethical for me.
Okay, it's unethical for me. It isn't purely.
Yeah.
No.
This is not hourly rate.
If it's a dissertation and it's your friend, you like them, you want them to do well, so you could get involved beyond what is actually.
Yes, that is
But
easy to do.
editing, not marking. So even if you do like help them, it doesn't mean they're going to do well.
No, it doesn't, but it is unethical. I agree. I think that's the easiest way of wriggling out of it. What you could do is if you really love them, you could say, well, let me have a look at what you've done and let me see what I think and let me suggest some things that you could speak to your editor about when you commission them. And that's a friendly thing. Just say, you know, I can't spend hours on it, it's very lengthy, but I'm happy to do that and spend 2-3 hours on it and, you know, let you have that. But if you're in a situation where you've got a tight deadline and you're working as a freelancer, you don't want to do that. And you don't have to feel that you have to do it. You've got to be able to say, look, I can't. This is far too detailed. I've got a deadline to meet. You've actually got to learn to be upfront. Otherwise, you're going to be like the doctor. The poor doctor who works like crazy all week and then goes out to a do at the weekend. And they say, oh, hello, are you a doctor? Don't you want to just give me your opinion on, you know, bad-mouthing another doctor. Okay, so don't do that to yourself. Sorry, you've had your hand up for ages now. Yeah.
I wanted to find out in cases where they say please edit this, but also do a plagiarism check. How do you do it?
Okay, there's stuff that that you can use. The easiest way is you take a whole big, when the text is lumbering along and, can't find the verb, you know. That kind of- Okay, and then suddenly you have these pristine paragraphs. Okay, no, it's really dead easy. It's a dead giveaway. Okay, otherwise you can, it's very cheap and very simple. You just take a paragraph here and there and you plonk the whole thing into your Google search. And it takes you there. Okay, for more complicated instances of plagiarism, for example, I think Colleen takes a very strong line on this, and she's right. So when she says paraphrasing is plagiarism, when I read that in her notes, I went, Colleen, you know, you're overdoing it. But actually, no, you've got to say, you've got to give a source. It's fine to, you know, to do it, but say where your idea, it's not your idea. It's somebody else's idea. Nice, you've understood it, you've been able to express it in your own words, which is a high level skill, which is not that easy to develop. Okay. Do you need to?
Yes.
Sorry. No, that's fine. Okay. So, yeah. And then there's a program called Turnitin.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh?
That's the easiest way.
Uh,
It sometimes gives you kind of weird rating
Turnitin.
system.
Hey?
It's a little bit clumsy where
Yeah.
If you reference something perfectly, it's like you plagiarize, but it's just because I've referenced something.
Somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Ever reference
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah. Now,
So anything
Turnitin
quoted
really
is-
annoys me, I must say. And I think how expensive is it these days?
I don't know.
But if that's your work, if that's what you're doing, mostly editing people's dissertations for language, and you know you're allowed to make suggestions, hey, when you get a dissertation. You can say, sorry, but you know your argument here, you really need to knock it into shape, because it's really, you know, it's arse about face. We've got some other stuff like that to look at today. So, I would get Turnitin. There's something else, but people have endless arguments about it, and especially among the translators and people who are doing academic editing. Okay, so what may be worth investing in for one person is not worth investing in for another, but it's good to keep up with the technology. I also find some of the stuff, if you know your Microsoft Word really well, and I'm not a big Microsoft Word addict or lover, okay? I mean, there are so many things wrong with that whole setup, but if you know your program well and you use it to its full capacity, you'll find that it does most of what other programs do. Perfected. Perfected is great, and it does do things that Microsoft Word doesn't do. And I know some people who do a lot of editing use it. But for me, I can't really find that much that it does that I can't do with my Microsoft Word functions. Okay, but they do have specials on it, by the way, quite a few. And sometimes they bring out a specialist from England who does a presentation, and you don't have to buy it. Professional Editors Guild actually does some workshops with that, and then they'll charge 200 Rand for the cost of the venue and the tea and the coffee and the biscuits, and then we pay something towards the person who's come out, but they don't. It's not a big thing. Like we might pay for their bed and breakfast. Okay, and so you get it for very little, the introduction. Okay, you'll pay Peg 200 Rand, 250 Rand. Peg pays the guy a little bit. It's paid for by the company. You might pay for his bed and breakfast and the venue and tea and coffee. So I can let you know if you want to know about these courses, because they're really, really worth, for the money you're paying. It really gives you a very good insight into those kinds of programs. So it also depends on how your brain works and how tech savvy you are and how you like to look for things and how you like a machine to give you information. All of that plays a role. Yes. Okay.
Please, how do we become as students, members of?
You just go to the website. It's called Professional Editors Guild, PEG, I think. Or Professional Editors Guild is probably better. Just Google it. You'll find there. It tells you about membership. Okay. All right. Okay, so the stuff that I gave you is once you've gone past the editing. So we're going to go back to the editing, but right now we're moving away onwards. Okay. These are the symbols you need to know when you're looking at text that has been edited and it's been designed. The design has been created and it's been typeset to that design. So everything that needs to be a heading at certain font is there. Everything that needs to be box text, shaded 10%, is there. Every artwork is in place. All the captions are there. Basically, your book looks like a book. The page has been done. You're no longer at a manuscript folio. Okay, so this is a traditional term, and it's actually quite pretty. The manuscript folio. You're now at what is actually called a page. Okay, so all the pages are the same depth, and all the headings look the same, all the chapter names look the same. You should have most of your prelims by then. You'll have a contents section. What will you not have initially? There's one thing you won't have. You should have your prelims, okay, and the material that comes at the end of the book. What's that called?
Blurb? Is that blurb?
No. Design blurb. The design blurb is the design.
Okay.
It's just a description of what you want in your design. What comes after? What's an appendix and a
End matter.
end matter? Thank you so much. And you've just cribbed it out of that book in that chapter that I told you all to read and revise. Okay. So front matter or prelims, your end matter. There's just one thing you won't have. Okay, you might not have the preface because you're waiting for the grand person who's doing the preface to kindly write it. Or, okay, you want a particular individual to write your preface because it gives you kudos. That's fine, it might come late. But otherwise, just think of what you get at the end of the book. Index. Okay, and you can't do your index until you are at final pages, because you don't want to say, we've left out this crucial table, and it takes 2 pages, And then you've done your index, and now you're saying this word appears on page 193, but actually you've now got 2 extra pages, so actually it's no longer there, it's on page 195. Okay, you don't want to go there, even with all the kind of technology that we have. It's just such a mess. Okay, so once you're at these pages, you now have to check how has the edited manuscript translated into a book. Okay, and lots of things can go wrong. So last time we talked about widows and orphans. It's one of the kinds of things that can happen. Okay, what else? Anything can happen. Your page may be short, too short, and it looks ridiculous, a line next to the other one. Okay. Your picture can be in the wrong place. It's not next to the text that it should appear next to. Your captions are incorrectly numbered. So you go from 1.1 to 1.5 in one fell swoop, and it can just be the numbering, okay, but just hundreds of little things like that. Some text may have fallen off. What else? Who works in publishing can tell me what else can go wrong? A page may end up completely blank. Okay, it's just, yeah. So, okay. What else? Missing pages, yeah. Extra pages? Text can sometimes be pasted and yeah, copy and paste. Okay, that can end up in the same paragraph in different places in the book. It happens, especially when people work late at night with electric light. Okay. What else? It could be the wrong font. Do you know how sometimes you've got, suddenly you've got this whole big sea of bolds. It's wrong, or it's in italic and it should not be, or it should be in italic but it isn't. Okay, so all those things that have been overlooked in the final manuscript can now show up, and they can also happen because of the typesetting process. At that point, you do not want your typesetter to read the whole line. Okay? So you're going to use symbols in the margin. And it looks, who hasn't got this? Have you all got it? Okay, you should be looking at it. Who knows these symbols? Who has used a version of the symbols? One solitary soul, some. Okay, nobody else? Well, that's great. I'm so happy because most of you will have nothing to unlearn. You'll learn it right the first time. Okay, these are the latest symbols. They're actually the British symbols. And if you use these, you're only using symbols. You can use purely symbols. You don't need, occasionally you need to write a little explanation in the margin for the person who's doing the correcting, but very seldom. Okay, so this is an international standard, but everybody's bloody minded, so this is the British system, which we use. And then you go to the States, and it's different. And then you go to Canada, and it's different. And you go to Australia, and it's sort of like this, but they're still using the old system, which used a lot of little abbreviations and words. But this is what we need here. This is the system that most people know best. Okay. If you know that your typesetter is likely not to know these symbols, you need to send them a copy. All right, I'm only taking it so far. So I need you to go through this. And at first it just looks like a jumble. I know it looks horrible. But actually it's not such a big deal. So take a deep breath, break it over 4 days. You can catch your breath in between. And just have a look at what is there, the description. And then write notes next to these. I'll give you clean ones. In fact, I'll send you this as a scan. Okay, I'll do it as a scan. Write there any difficulties you might have. It says, but what does that mean? Okay. These are symbols that go into the margin. You use your left margin for the, if you imagine your page as being more or less split up like this. Okay, you've got left-hand margin and right-hand margin. So for this text, errors that you find on this side, you'll tend to use this. Errors that you find on this side, you tend to use this margin. Okay. Sounds like a nightmare. I'm giving it to you now so that you can get used to them. A lot of people don't use the old-fashioned, if they're editing, I said to you at some stage that people still do edit on hard copy. Do you remember? Okay. So, there used to be a simplified version of this to use for editing. But I don't think it's worth learning. Really? You can just use these for yourself. Okay. I don't think, as long as people have got the basics here, sorry. Thank you. All right. So please, can you break it up? Go through a page or 2 pages at a time. See if it makes any sense. Write comments where it really doesn't. Okay, and then we'll take it from there. We'll do hands-on. All right. But I need you to start reading this now so that you're familiarizing yourself with it. Okay, so guys, let's have a look at our person from Mars. If you can just take out your text. Margot, first kid on Mars. You're going to need to file your stuff soon. I'm talking to myself as well, so I started off with a yellow file this morning, and I've put nothing in it this afternoon because things were busy. But you need to try. Have you done your exercise?
Yeah, my
It
comments.
was based on that. Okay, so you had to. So at the end, please hand me your exercise with your name on the page. People handed in stuff without a name. I just want to have a look. Okay. First is, it wasn't an assignment. First exercise you did, I haven't finished. It's actually very long, and I only got 2 of the assignments yesterday, very late. Okay. But it doesn't matter. Okay. I just want to see what you're doing, and in fact, I'm generally quite pleased. Okay, so Margot, first kid on Mars. Okay, now a couple of people told me before class started what they'd said. I want to go, starting with Wendy, I want to go down and then up. Just try and tell me something that hasn't already been said. One of the things that hasn't already been said in the things that you could say to the author. Okay. So first of all, let's do a round where you say, yes, you would take it on, or no, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Okay?
I would.
You would.
I would.
You have enough information to make the decision.
Okay. You would publish it, or you'd say to the author. I'll tell you how this is how one student responded.
I love it. However, the audience, the level, and then also to say,
Okay, we're going to come back to that. Okay, so maybe, maybe not. So not as it is. In fact, your answer is no. Not as it is.
yeah, not as it is.
Okay, right?
I take it.
Okay. Okay.
Not as it is.
Huh?
Not as it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I answered as a publisher, I would not, but as an editor, I go with the.
Good man. And you know what? You're making work for yourself, but I mean, you're not being dishonest. He needs it. Okay. So do you want to, let's start again. You say one thing that you, what did you say?
I said it needs some tweaking before it can be published.
Okay, and what do you mean by tweaking?
It needs to be reworked for the target audience that he said.
Okay, target audience. Okay. Okay. Target audience, too low at the moment. The age group too low for what he's written. Yeah?
I said the same thing, and I increased the target audience age, and then I also said that it needs some polishing. Like there were some places where it needed some
Okay.
self-editing.
I'll say wording based on the target audience and also the phrases, the long phrases.
The long sentences, yeah. He does wander on.
And it's a fantasy in my opinion, and kids like to be imaginative, so I would have put some artwork in. I don't see any artwork.
Okay, and that's a very interesting point, and let's stop there for 2 seconds. I also wanted artwork, now that you say that. I'd forgotten about that, and I kept on thinking, oh, yeah, we need, you know, which tells me, because at this level, or let's say we take it up to 12 to 14, or even 14 to 16. 14 to 16 is where it sits more comfortably for me. Why am I saying artwork? Does that not show up something is wrong with the writing?
It's not descriptive enough.
It's not descriptive enough. Okay, you've had your turn there. Okay, what would you? What?
Share the same view.
Huh?
Wilson, to say the illustrations, and then
Yes.
also I will move it a bit up to senior phase. which
Yes,
is
senior
presenting
phase.
that.
Yeah, actually, yes. Okay.
I said I would take it, but I advised that the language used needed to be simpler or simplified for the target market. Also, I considered the fact that this was
There were some things you
Understand.
didn't know. You would have had to read chapters 1 and 2 to know if what he was saying made sense. Okay. But I have read chapters 1 and 2. So there are a couple of places where it says, it refers to things that actually you can't really know about.
Yes, for instance, I mentioned also a line, the one where he said he hit the enter button, but the old Pentium didn't respond.
Yes.
I also put a note there to say that these children were born in the electric age, so they don't really know.
Not
Yeah,
even
what's
that
what it
long.
is.
Yeah,
Phone age.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That section, yeah.
Huh?
That section specifically goes into, shows his age, and kids don't know that.
No, but the fact is that this bunch are working with old technology.
Oh.
Okay, so
he needs to know that kids won't. The kids don't even know what the Flintstones are these days. They won't know what a milli tower
I know.
is.
Okay, next.
I read sort of some of the technical terms and vocabularies which is probably not correct for 10 to 12-year-olds. And also, I know we just said it wasn't descriptive enough, but I thought the descriptive passages were a bit much.
What, overdone?
Yeah, very long and too detailed for
Yes.
kids.
Yes. Okay, no, I agree. There is too much detail. Okay.
I said that
Shame, you've got the end bits. It's horrible. Hey, you've got to find something new to say, but it's good. It's good for your soul.
I had a little bit of trouble with getting a couple of chapters understanding the narrative, but like, obviously it's from the chapters, but I also thought that like the sentences were maybe a little bit...
No, but I agree. The narrative isn't that clear in this chapter.
Yeah, but like, from like the first couple of paragraphs I sort of got it, because it moved on from that little, there was like a thing. Yeah, it was really
If
cute.
anybody knows what that sort of structure is on which that saucer rests, well, you're brilliant, because I mean, and 30 jutting into the sky, a 30-degree angle is like a really pathetic little angle, really. I mean, would have to go like that. So, yeah.
It felt very disjointed to me. Like
Yeah.
the flow, there was like I felt like the flow was really good, and also after the same with those first two paragraphs, I couldn't understand where the story was going.
Yeah.
The chapter was going from those first two. It didn't feel relevant to the rest of the.
Okay. And even if it was flowing from 1 and 2, you still need to
Yeah.
recoup. Who said that? Did you say that? Somebody's text that I looked at before the lecture started. Or was it? Oh no, it was Vivian's that she sent me via email earlier today. And she said, it doesn't matter if you've already covered it. You need to cover it again in a different way, but you need to go back and retrace. Who are these? Who are some of these characters? Who are these onlookers? Have we, where are we exactly? Okay, so she said, you don't say it in the same words, but revise for your, especially your younger reader. And I thought that's a very good point, yeah.
I think in some points it's too descriptive and at other points it's really not and you're not sure what's going on. So there's a lack of consistency with that.
Good.
And then the sentences are just too long. There's so many commas, it's comma after comma.
I know.
Comma.
And
It drags on.
Dashes. These awful pauses in the sentence.
He does dashes because he's using too many commas already.
Yes, he's already used too many commas, and have you noticed that he uses semicolons in the wrong way? Okay, and now suddenly we need a bigger thing, but actually two things happen there. Either the dash isn't needed, or you actually need a full stop at that point. That's how much of a pause you actually need by then. So I thought that, the punctuation was very problematic, and now you're the last. You've had your turn.
Yeah, my concerns were really around the flow, and I didn't really feel.
Did you feel drawn in?
That was my point. I wanted him to give us a bit more, pull us in, establish the characters a bit. They felt underdeveloped.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so what would you call this? A first draft.
Yeah.
Hey? Okay. And actually, it is a first draft, but I think he's going to be a little bit shocked at our responses, but I want him to wake up now. Because his first book, with the much younger people and the little wild animals and the little fairies, I mean, it's a bit out of touch with a young reader.
Yeah.
And it was a book about his own.
Yeah.
And it had a green message, it was lovely, and it's got this like little central character who looks a bit like a pig and is so cute. But, and then he had all these sort of little characters, and they had cousins, and they would
It's too much.
do things. No, it was great, actually.
Yeah.
The dialogue was wonderful. Occasionally, there were a couple of late chapters in the book where I had to say, trim, 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 and you know, that kind of thing. The humor was at the right level. I said to you earlier, it had lots of fart jokes in it, which kids absolutely, I mean, it was mostly a little boys' book, so everything kind of felt right. I just needed to here and there. You know, there were passages where I didn't have to change a single word. They were so poetic and so visually stirring. So I think he's struggling with this, and I think he's going to enjoy the feedback. Okay, so let me just take a quick one, then we'll see after
Can I
that.
say something positive?
Yes.
Because actually, I felt that the topic of going into space is really right now because of all the things of Star Wars and how Disney's really capitalizing on that. So I thought that was good. And I really liked it when that 16-year-old was enjoying the attention. I thought that was a very truthful depiction of someone
Yeah.
that age. So I liked that, and I thought like, okay, I thought because it's chapter 3, we weren't seeing that so much. So I'm looking forward to seeing that truth.
I agree.
children.
I agree about, you know, showing off and
Yeah,
making a
the
big
way-
deal of it. That all felt psychologically very real to me. And I do agree. And actually, there's this little girl in here. And
Which we don't get to meet in this
you
one.
know, I think she's got the fascinating name of Katlejo, but I'm going to suggest to him, I can't remember now, that's not mentioned here. She's mentioned as a child, the 5 crew members, surely the last member was not the child. Okay, so it's actually about a little girl who's going off into space, and, okay.
I think maybe he just could
Well-
have picked a better chapter to send in if he just...
Well, I'm just wondering, this worries me a little
Oh,
bit.
geez.
Maybe he's most worried about it. I will say to him why, because I'm going to speak to him this weekend. I'm going to say, why did you send us that chapter? And what are you concerned about? And because we went through this whole process, and it worked very well for us, the previous book. The previous book's available on the internet. Miko and the Malefic Morphers. The Malefic Morphus is terrifying. Anyway. But he did his own artwork, and as I said to someone, he actually went into the Nizla forest, and he shot all these little things, and then he actually made little characters, and he made little clothes for the little characters. And he's just interesting, yeah. And then he shot all these things through various filters, and he knew photography very well, so he's played around with the genres, created images that nobody else has created on the planet. So he's got that to pull people in, although I would have liked a few more. This isn't, you know, there's none of that here. But being a very visual person, he hasn't got the visual structure here quite right. Okay, and I'm just very interested in that. So as a freelancer, sometimes people say, I've written a book, would you like to comment on it? And can you see how useful it can be? I mean, we're a bit freer than we would be if he was in the room, I suppose. Okay, but that's fine. He knows that. So, yes, Wolf.
There are 2 things. The one is there's a clapping in the book.
Yes,
I don't think that should be in there.
the clapping.
We spoke about his age. He obviously lived at a time when you could still clap people around.
Oh, clap.
Oh, yeah.
Who claps whom? I've forgotten, obviously.
I think the 16-year-old captain, that I think was the one thing, is you're not really sure if the controller is the captain, is he the guy, is he the what, headman, what the
Yeah,
headman?
there's a conflict there. You don't understand what's going
So
on.
I don't think that should remain in the book.
Okay.
Because you don't want to, it's not a picture you want to show to kids. That's the first thing. But I think the second thing is the title of the
What would
chapter.
you suggest?
actually got that as a point.
Alright,
Okay.
so,
So good. No, I thought the clapping was a bit funny, but that's because I'm from an older generation, so.
well, it reminds me of the Tony DeMazo
Because actually the character
Yeah,
doesn't
that's what I
seem to
thought,
be
yeah.
totally
Maybe
normal.
it is.
I mean,
Showers.
one thing I did pick up that I liked is that there was a surreal element to the whole thing, which I would have liked to have come forward a little bit more. And then for me, that was that this character is just, you know, a little bit out of control. I didn't think the club was like horrible, so horrible. No, I didn't. Sorry, wrong day.
I got the feeling that this was like, because their kids going to space, it's not now, it's a dystopian world where kids are maybe more responsible, more adult-like, maybe more aggressive because of the things they're facing.
I don't know, they seem
So-
to, yeah. It's hard to know because you don't know this character. Okay, and then the characters around are obviously people who are on the very borders
Yeah.
of just survival. Okay. One thing that annoyed me was like clicking. They get annoyed
Oh, that-
and they click, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, how do you express?
Accurate.
No, I don't know.
I just felt in the South African context,
Yeah.
how do you express it? Because it feels like you're stating the obvious, but you're also not stating the obvious. And it seems like a pathetic description.
I get what.
And you don't want to say, you know, giving a quick dental click or anything like
I
that.
don't know, I've read it somewhere, I think it was put in another way, it was like sucking their tooth
Yeah,
or
sucking
something.
on their teeth.
Sucking their teeth
I wouldn't-
in upset or something like that. Or read
Yeah.
it somewhere like that. But that sounds
I've
worse.
seen it expressed in
I
later.
see that.
It's a complicated thing culturally, though. It's very complicated culturally, I think. I got to it and I thought, I'm imagining him clicking anyway. And then I thought, but a lot of people won't. And how do I say it without sounding bizarre? Because it's pointed out in this way, it suddenly comes across as we know what he's trying to say, but he has been artless in saying it. I don't know how to be artful in saying it.
Sucking the back of he sucked the back of his teeth in annoyance. Like,
I was going to go to clicks in Zulu and then click, and I didn't have the time. I didn't know if I would find the right words that I'm looking for. Don't you think it feels like?
Feels unnecessary.
No, he feels like he's not from that culture, so he doesn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's trying to, and I know that he loves the clicks because he lives in the Eastern Cape. And as a kid, he was learning how to hunt. So but how do you work around this whole thing? It's culturally so
I mean, you
difficult.
could have easily just have rolled his eyes or
Yes.
sighed or...
Yeah, but they didn't because they're living in South Africa.
But
It's a South African story.
Into text.
It's true,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah, so what do you do?
I suppose you would go, yeah, 'cause like a click can be like.
Okay, this is the other bit of your homework. Besides the symbol,
Find a way to.
find a way. Okay, so can I just go through a few things? Okay, one thing the title was not evocative or even interesting. Sentence goes on too long, especially the opening sentence. Too many subsections. Okay, too many subsections. What about, yes, exactly. Okay, so some of these sentences you need to break into two sentences. Sometimes you need to end them. You can even have short sentences where he's used a pause. Sometimes you can have a short sentence, like, look at 3 lines from the bottom of the first page. Periodically, he mentioned to the inner circle of spectators, ordering them to stand back. Yeah, what would you do there?
I took out the semicolon and just said and keep because the semicolon.
Yeah,
is-
to stand back and keep their distance from the graft. Okay.
It seems like he kept adding on. He kept wanting to add on. That's why the dashes made this very disjointed afterthought. Like the whole sentence is an afterthought.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
Let me carry on.
The same
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
then the sentence should end.
Yeah.
Okay. modified belt conveyor, I thought it was conveyor belt structure. You can't visualize, very vague.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I kept on writing wrong, hard to visualize. Chapter opening is not interestingly worded. Okay, too many obstacles in the way of the story. You know, he seems to put in like little bits that you really don't want. You know, then you have to pause before you can actually move on, and that's the opposite of what you want. You want narrative flow. Okay, and that's what he had in his first book. He had brilliant narrative flow. Now he's got terrible narrative flow. Okay.
I think what's when I read chapter 3, without the benefit of chapters 1 and 2, the feeling I had was that he hasn't got the plot right. And so he's struggling to actually tell the story because he's trying to stretch the little story he has
yes.
to fit the chapter. You see.
Yeah, that's why it's always dashes, like little afterthoughts.
Sorry, so what was your very first sentence of your statement?
He hasn't got the plot of
Okay.
the book.
Actually, he does. He's got it all done. So that, you see, I mean, they're also different authors.
My thing is, if this were chapter 1 and he started with like a long descriptive thing to set the scene in the context, it would make sense. But this is chapter 3, and the scene only inevitably starts on the second page. So he's got all this stuff which no one is sure what's going on.
Yeah.
Because he's in a dumpster, then he's not in a dumpster, then what the hell?
Yes.
It's just, it's messy.
And
the
where's
thing is,
this?
it shouldn't, like this page is almost redundant. You should be starting with your characters. You want to be active voice, not constantly passive.
I didn't feel that it was that passive, but I felt there were obstacles.
It was just
Yeah.
drags it out. It makes it difficult.
No, it does. You keep on taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. You don't know where you are.
I think
Okay.
that was particularly clear when he added jumping across the puddles leftovers of the previous night's storm. Like that was like this random piece of information
No one
that
needed to
actually
know that.
no, I think
Yeah.
like
There's
Danny
too
said, I
many
think
random.
maybe
Yeah.
he should have set the dump and the rain and the horse scene just in the beginning. Like we're at a dumpster, the puddles from last night's rain are here, blah
Yeah,
blah
but
blah.
we may
blah.
have been in the garbage dump before.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's true.
I don't know. Look, I don't think it matters. You can actually fix this. 10 editors can fix this in 10 different ways. You'll have a different chapters. But okay, let's just look at the most important stuff. But we all agree that it's flawed. Okay, and yet many of you would have taken it on. Why? Because now everybody's being negative and saying all the shortcomings. But there were so many people who were going to take it on.
Because the story's good.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
it's
All right.
Like
So basically, it's there.
That
Yeah.
chapter, it's like-
And I like it. I like it as a South African story.
I think it
You were
also
saying we all agree that this is flawed. I may disagree. There is a writer coach, Jerry Jenkins, who also teaches that you sort of need to create conflict to lure your readers into reading.
Yeah, but he's talking about adult books. I mean, this is kind of different.
that's the conflicts.
But I agree. I mean, conflict, yes, conflict does talk, but it doesn't always have to be like that kind of conflict that he's got. Okay, but I don't say it's wrong. Okay, he also strings words together. The enormous silver saucer-shaped craft.
Yeah.
Okay, far too many adjectives. He needs to trim all of that out.
And we teach that in grade 9.
While around the craft, the lively debate continued. Just as much activity was taking place at its base. Okay, it's all about liveliness and activity, and yet I can't visualize it. So, it seems to be, okay, too many pauses, use of vocabulary occasionally. They were already blown away by his responsibility. He wanted to make a thorough display of his competence. Okay? You need to think about using those kinds of words in fiction and at that level. No one is 2 words. It's not hyphenated. That's at the top of the next page. Okay, here's the clicking the tongue. Okay, one thing. Okay, I said paragraphs 1, 2, 3. Okay, from Johnny, you check it too. He ordered the taller boy. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, are these interactions properly described? I couldn't really work out how they were interacting, what I was supposed to feel about it, what exactly was being said.
It was superficial, like there was no depth.
There is no depth to that interaction. It's not that their interactions themselves need to be so deep, it's just that the description needs to be insightful.
I think
Okay,
I think that maybe bugged everyone, especially with the flow, was instead of following one character and going into depth with that, it felt like much like when you see a camera at an event and you see little sections of people all the time and you see the crowds and then you see the artist or whatever then you go back and look at the food trucks, and it felt like it was that kind of scene, and was these tiny interactions with people that actually don't make much of a difference. They fill the video, they fill the text.
well, maybe they show you that he's a,
Bit of a
he's a bit of a violent person. Or just
hard.
So does that come across really well? Okay, those are questions. Again, this use of too many things. Behind the keyboard, a large old monitor. Is large really necessary? I mean, how large are these monitors on a Pentium? They're not that large. No, they're not. They're not. I used a Pentium. I hate to admit it, but I've used a Pentium. I know they're not that large. A large old monitor simply displayed the word Headman as the twisting, turning, and rolling screensaver.
I like that.
Okay.
I was going back to that old computer, and I felt like it was a really good description, but it was irrelevant because kids won't get it, because kids don't have that anymore.
Another thing I've noticed, which hopefully will come up again, is the use of this and that when you could actually use his or the whatever it was. Okay. So you've got to be careful when you use that and this. These italics must all go. Another thing that Vivian wrote to me this morning, definitely awful. It's like telling you how to read. This is important. And then you read it and you say, no, but it isn't. Okay, so actually just as disruptive as the pauses and the semicolons and all those things that are badly done. I'm amazed that he. Okay, and then you've got to be, so the last two lines, he blew at his hand and pinched it between his knees. Do you pinch something between your knees? You squeeze something between your knees. You don't pinch it. Okay, so accuracy. And I feel that some of his words are not the most accurate that he could have chosen. Okay. Past tenses. Would you like some material on past tenses? I think a lot of us struggle with past tenses. I'm very happy to organize that for you. Last line, on the desk, the blue screen shrank into a bright white square. Not shrunk. Has shrunk, but shrank. This is normal past, not perfect. Okay? All right. Well, I think we did a good job. Ear-piercing acoustic feedback. Why did I have this underlined? I have no idea. Okay. All right. What's the time? Should we take a tiny break?
It's 20 past.
Perfect. Okay. Anybody want to wee or just stretch their legs quickly? Please be back quickly.
Sounds so long to explain that.
Yes, I don't think you can get away without reading it. What work are you doing? to learn. It's really dead easy. So just work
So
through
just
it
get back
again,
on.
see what you can remember, see what's different. We will use it. We'll use it on the assignments. It's so easy. Yes, you're going to have, yes.
Sample, just something else you have done, so that we see how.
Yes, 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 yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
So like a slight idiot, I did my thing in my book. Can I type it up and email it to you instead?
Just do it quickly.
If you want to try doing a blog,
Take a picture and SMS it to me.
yep, that works too.
Fine. Let's get that done.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. I may have started off with a Pentium, but I've moved on.
What is a Pentium? I don't
It was my grandparents, my parents.
It's just an old computer. It wasn't that. Not that old.
But it's
It
just
was
like
much older in front before it.
Now we call it an
It was like a new. It was a desk computer, and it was, and it had limited memory, but it did the job.
Was that like before Windows was a thing?
No. Windows and it sort of went pretty handy. Not for techie people who are doing scientific statistics somewhere. They've been using whatever they're using.
As a 12-year-old, I would not have
No, well, that's what I'm concerned about his language. Is that a lot of the stuff I'm not like, what are you talking about?
Like the mini tower.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's like the brain of the computer.
yeah, that's what we used to call it in school. No, but I was appalled. Like, I was speaking to the kids at the cosplay school, and they asked me what cosplays I did. I said, oh, Wilma from the Flintstones. And they're like, what's that? And I'm like,
And do you know what I do think? I do think the book kind of could do with some line drawing and pencil drawing.
yeah, so
And just show a few things along the way. Cheap
Yeah.
stuff at like 300 Rand a drawing or so. Sort of slightly grungy artwork, you know what
Yeah.
go down quite nicely.
I like those kinds of books when it looks like there's drawings in the margins.
Yes.
I love that.
That's for bleeding into the
Never wear
margin.
by
Yeah.
Will Gaynor.
Yeah.
Have you seen this new version of that? It has like these really like rough and like crude drawings in the margins. It's so dark. It's amazing.
I think this could be like slightly dark,
Yeah.
you know, for that age group. I think it would be quite nice.
Like I was saying, never wear by Neil Gaiman because he's got like these drawings in the margins, and it's really doesn't necessarily add to it, but it's like it takes you deeper into the story.
Well, you can see how he did his little
Yeah.
thing over here. I'm sure you could use something like that for this. if
No,
you
that
wanted.
took him years and months. And it's like so, and when you see it in color on the page, especially in the online version, it's beautiful.
Okay.
It's like, it's got a lot of depth.
I'm sure there will be some aliens or something though coming up on Mars.
You know, he's actually got a daughter who's about 23, and I think he should be a bit more hip. I just get the feeling that he needs to be like a little bit more
Yeah, cool.
hip. And the thing is, well, I suppose, I'm just thinking what he does in his spare time. He and his wife do a lot of work with deaf children who can't hear well or who can't speak well. And they tend not to have such hip vocabs if they're in these homes. Huh? Am I right or am I wrong? I think, yeah, being in a home for disabled children, maybe he doesn't hear that much vocabulary. I'll send him to a couple of movies.
Yeah, or maybe like the
to accept this book for publication as long as you promise me to go to and watch.
Yeah, like something like even Inside Out, because that explains a difficult concept in a really simple way. And I think that might help him get some idea of the vocabulary that kids are using.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah, cried.
It's amazing. Actually, you know, it's nice to make a career out of it because so many people are self-publishing. But it's also, everybody really should get a written report on their book. So I have a friend who does a lot of editing of fiction, and she's also an author, and she's actually made a very successful career as an author. And what she's done for years now is that when she's always part of a friendly circle. So she said every author should have a friendly circle that they show their work to. And they've created a safe space. Sometimes they all go off for a weekend and they write. They rent some cheap bed and breakfast and then they all write together.
Writers retreat.
It's, yeah, it is. I think it's quite nice. If you've got the right people, it's great. So yeah, friends, you know. Friendly critics. What did she call them? The friendly critics or something like that. I'll have a look. Okay. All right. So I'll take your stuff in as you leave, but I need to now move on to the...
Are we handing in the edited?
Yeah, but you can hand them in as you leave, making sure that your name is there.
And then the book that we wrote. Yeah. So that two things will be.
What did you edit?
I didn't edit anything.
So yeah, I didn't.
Did you edit?
No. I
okay.
made like, well, I made like.
You made comments.
I made comments.
Well, if you feel... Sorry. If you feel that your little letter to the author needs the underpinning of what you've done on the page, that's fine. But then just remember to write your name on both these things. Okay, so...
Sorry, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Can I email it to you tonight?
Please.
Well, no, I don't feel like it needs to. So I'll just leave it.
Okay, guys. All right, so get ready to go on a ride, please. Take out the Lillian and Goy. Okay. Very different kind of text, right? That's the thing. Editors, so we've done bios and marketing material. We've done fiction. Now we're doing history, not a textbook, but it's complementary, supplementary material.
This
Sorry,
was not
yes.
very fun to read. I did not have a very fun time reading this.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you all what you feel. I don't care.
So our final assignment will look something like this.
Okay. So you need to have your pencils ready and write lots of notes on the document. Did I send it to you?
Yeah, I've been printed out.
Anybody else missing the manuscript? Okay. Okay, I want to know, having read the instructions, have you got questions on those? Because once I get started, I'm going to go so fast, we're going to have our eyeballs going out. Okay, you saw how many aspects there were to the assignment?
Yeah.
Okay. So things have got to be accurate, they've got to be structured properly. The language level's got to be right. Okay, and this time, you can't suggest to the author that they raise the level, because they've written to a particular level. Okay, so either they've written to it properly, or they haven't. Okay, so you need to supply help sometimes. Why? Because they need to learn a new vocabulary. So some of the stuff is going to be maybe not may be difficult, but not to be turfed, not to be replaced, to be explained. Okay, because you want them to learn those terms. Okay. You need to worry about a style sheet. In other words, as you're going along, you're making style decisions and you need to add in a style sheet. So it's a record of the work that you do. Why are you making that record?
So that when you come to a similar thing and you've forgotten, you can see what you've done previously.
Perfect. Such a good explanation. Thank you. Nobody has ever given me that in all the many years we've done it. For yourself. Okay. Then, so yes, you forget as you go along. You might do something else. You might have a cup of tea and then you can't remember if it's Lillian with 2 L's in the middle or 1. Okay, so you've got to go back. Because you did that research, and that research takes time, and you must write it down and show that you're doing the research. Okay, most people hand in a terrible style sheet. Did I tell you about my porno book?
What? No.
My airport novel.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, with the pornographic passages. Okay, I got a horrible style sheet for that. I couldn't use it. Okay, so it came to me from somebody else who'd done work on it before. So can you guess what the point of this whole thing is? Who are you? I do not know you. Nowhere.
They didn't do the style sheet properly, or they were really bad editors, and their style sheet was bad.
Okay, so I think I've asked the question the wrong way around. If you're working as the editor, you're making these decisions all the time. The less able the author has been in terms of consistency, the more you need to do it. The more variety there is in terms of names, issues. I think this could be. Sorry. Hello? I'm fine, thank you. Sorry, can you call me back later? After 6. Thank you. Bye. I thought it was
Question.
Ntombi, whose dad has been ill, and that's why. Anyway, okay.
Quick question. Is there a particular format for the style sheet that you
Yeah, there are different formats, and I'll show you formats. Okay, so I'll get those copied as well. But just know that you are recording everything you do. So some people go A to Z. They just do a little table, and they leave different, and then you record anything that's under A. Okay, anything that's under B. I don't like that. I prefer categories like, mind you, it depends. It depends on the book. It's not a very fussy book. It's fine to have an A to Z of little squares. But for a more complicated book, I like things like capitalization, what I will capitalize, what I won't, and why. Use of italics, spellings that might be under discussion, you know, all those things. Every time there's a thing there. So you're recording. So as the editor, so when the book has been typeset and it goes to the proofreader, has the proofreader not, because you won't have been fully consistent. I don't care how brilliant an editor you are. You won't. And sometimes, because your attention is called away by grammar, it's called away by vocab, and then you're thinking about are you respecting your author's voice enough, or, you know, or actually is the reader more important? And this feels anachronistic, it doesn't belong in the 1950s, or whatever. Okay. That's your brain, it's working overtime, so I have all these threads all the time. Okay, so you won't pick up everything, but you will have picked up a lot of it. And for the next person who comes along, there's a record. Okay, so it goes from the editor to the proofreader. If as a proofreader you don't get given it, ask for it. And if you can retain a slightly snooty attitude, without making it too obvious. What? You haven't sent me the style sheet? I can't work without a style sheet. Okay, so, but the number of people who don't give you a style sheet is staggering. Okay, they usually don't, but they must. Okay, so recently I've worked with somebody who has style sheets to hand over with every job, and it's just such a wonderful thing. So unless you've got a very good reason to differ from what the editor did, and you rewrite an aspect of the style sheet, it's there. Anything that wasn't covered before, you add. Okay. Style sheet doesn't just go to the proofreader, it also goes to the typesetter. So if they see any inconsistencies when they're typesetting, because remember, every pair of eyes sees a different page, picks up different errors. Okay, and we do scan quite unconsciously, and you'll pick up this error on this page, and I'll pick up this little space issue. Okay, so having the typesetter look at the page as well, they pick up stuff. Okay, and then when they send you proofs, they're supposed to show you these things in green, but this is a tradition that is sometimes observed and sometimes not, sadly. But if they've got the style sheet, sometimes they'll think something is a mistake, then they've got the style sheet and they say, oh no, actually that's right. The date is written this style in a quotation, but in the main part of the text it's written 9th April 1956. Okay, so usually now if you edit stuff, the Americans are a different bunch. They love all their dates and things in different orders and lots of THs and stuff. But we like to just say the date, the month, and the year, as plain as possible. Okay, obviously if it's like that in a quotation, you're not going to go and edit the quotation, obviously. Okay. All right, so that's one of the things you'll be producing, a style sheet. Then you'll be doing an artwork brief. Okay, and you can see here, can you see just from going through it, that somebody has made an effort, an attempt, okay, at producing an artwork brief. But what was our scenario? There's always a scenario or a context. It was that the author was very, yeah, in your description? No, not here, on the other,
Oh,
yeah, on your description of the,
the kid on Mars.
no. You were given this, and then you were given an accompanying text, which you were also supposed to read. You were also supposed to prepare dutifully and very well. The general context, yeah, you're looking surprised because you don't do your homework. Listen, I don't want to get heavy about this, but if you don't do it, you're not going to get like a quarter, as much as you could out of the course. Okay. The author's running late. Okay. So if an author's running late, but they have to have something in because it's got to go and be submitted to the education department, and it's now just got to come in ready or not, one of the things that often goes is the artwork brief. Okay, it will be so brief that it actually isn't a great artwork brief. Okay, it becomes an artwork nothing, and then you have to then turn it into a proper artwork.
Will you go over that with us?
Yeah.
Because I was about to
Yes.
say,
No, I've got fantastic artwork briefs from years ago. You'll see exactly how I've done. So it's like, it's got a number. Then it's got a description of what it is. Then it's got, is it landscape or portrait, ideally? Is it black and white or color? Do you want it large on the page or small is fine? Okay. Sometimes your book, you've got artwork, small artwork that can go into the margin, then you can say suitable for margin. Okay. Or you might write next to your artwork, this has got to go across both pages. So it can only happen if you are putting the artwork on facing pages. Okay. So in a book, when you open up, what's that called? Double page spread. Double page spread. Okay, I'm going to phone your lecturer from last semester. Tell him he hasn't done his job. I'm just joking. double page spread. Okay, it's probably no chance. But that, so you'd have to say, please note, this artwork has got to stretch across both pages of it, both sides of a double page spread. Okay, or it's got to be on facing pages. Okay, so all those kinds of things you have to visualize. Then you have to provide me with a reference. Okay, so you're saying you want to show this Lillian as a young girl. First of all, are there photographs?
I don't think so.
Is there one, which is just so hard to lay your hands on? Okay. Luckily, lots of there are loads of websites in South Africa that carry images of our national heroes. So they're up there and they're available. And then there's history, what's that called? There's the ANC's history website, and that sometimes carries images.
History online.
Yes, history online. And it's really good sometimes, and it carries images that are not generally available. Okay. But if you need to find me a reference, you just need to find me the reference. You don't have to ask for permission. Somebody else will usually do that for you in the publishing house. It's very rare that an editor has to ask for permissions, but it can happen, depending on, because it's not just every job and every editor that's different. It's also every publishing house, every environment. You might be asked to do this A, B, and C at the one publisher, and C and D at the other publisher. Okay, but very rare, and I won't ask that of you. It's just too much. Okay, so what you would do a printout for me quickly of that image. Or if you want, you say, hey, look at this information now. I want to put it into a pie chart because it's all over the place. And if I just put it all into a pie chart, everything will come together nicely. I'll be able to compare all the different segments with each other. Perfect, okay? But basically you then have to give somebody, the person who's going to do the computer artwork or the other artwork, some idea. So editors actually do end up drawing little examples at times. Very rough. And usually, you can copy off somebody else. Then there are instructions that you can get. For example, you take something out, your Macmillan publishes, and then you take something out of Oxford University Press, their school textbooks. And you take this beautiful diagram they've produced, and you say, here's a diagram, just do something similar. Half the time, you're going to scan it. They'll change a few things, add a bit of color, whatever, and then they'll say, here you are. Okay, and that's not what you want. So you've got to specify in your artwork brief, please do not reproduce reference or source or example as is. You have to adapt it. You can't just do it. If you want to use it, you've got to get permission. So you can say, yes, okay, I'll use Oxford University Press because nobody in the whole country has done such a brilliant depiction of the water cycle. You know the water cycle? Comes in over the ocean, the rains, blah, blah, all those things. Water cycle, okay. Now the water cycle is a really problematic thing to do because they tend to teach it at grade 2, and then they teach it at grade 4, and then they teach it at grade 7, and then grade 9, and every time it gets a little bit more complex. And you get so many depictions that are actually not really that great. Okay, so you might find the one. And you might say, okay, all this intellectual work has gone into that. I have to respect that. The person who's doing my artwork has to respect that. So either they change it quite a lot, but keeping the same elements, or I must just actually go to Oxford University Press and request permission. Okay. So these things come up in images, not just in text. You see that? You can't just take someone's image, which often condenses a whole lot of intellectual labor, and plonk it down in your own book.
Sorry.
Yes.
How do you do the brief without seeing an image of what you're talking about? If they talk about a picture, like you say here, a picture of the march clearly showing the 4 women.
Yeah.
You have to go look for that picture.
Yeah, it takes you 5 5 seconds to research via Google. Okay. And then you get 5 of them and then you decide which one do I think is the nicest. And which one would go nicely with my other artwork. Okay. Now, ideally, the author supplies this. And let me tell you that in education publishing in South Africa, a lot of the time, the author provides absolutely nothing. In a lot of publishing houses, you as the author pay for the production of the artwork. But in this country, and there are reasons for that, it's just that if you don't manage to sell your books, if your book doesn't make it onto the list, then all that labor's gone into nothing. Okay, so then they'll say, okay, we'll produce the artwork, it's fine, we'll commission. You tell us what you want and give us examples, and then we'll commission the artwork. Okay. Okay. Sorry, have we got 10 minutes left or nothing?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop yattering now. You need to go back and do the reading again, please. The context, all the different bits that you need to hand in. Okay? Got a better sense of it now. I'm sure it makes a bit more sense. Okay. All right, so get ready to write. Okay, paragraph style. What are we going to do? What do you want to do for your paragraphs? Spaced or indented?
Is that a question
Space is
or?
easier to read at a younger level because they
Yeah.
have more space.
Yeah.
Indented more academic.
Indented more academic. Indented also novels and fiction. And for example, my airport novel would definitely have to have indents. Okay, because I'm saving space. Otherwise, what is a 450-page book is not going to be 600 because I've now used spaces between instead of just indenting, which is much more economical with paper. Okay.
So we decided on space.
So no, this one we're not spacing. This one we are indenting, just so that we get the practice. In a school book, you'll mostly have indents as well, but you may have space. It depends. Okay. Okay, so what happens then? Okay. So Lillian Ngoyi is spelled incorrectly in the very... Okay, first of all, it's called captor instead of chapter. Okay, which often happens. You will totally ignore the chapter because you'll assume that it's right, and half the time it's got something wrong with it. Often it's called chapter 3 when it should be 4. I don't know why. There's a problem with chapters 3 and 4 in books. They tend to get swapped. Okay, so I can't find anything of the sort. Okay, Lillian Ngoyi, double L, so you need to fix the spelling and you need to write that in your style sheet. Okay, introduction. Oh, okay, so we've decided we're indenting. Okay, what about, do we need an introduction in this? Did you read the manuscript carefully?
My manuscript, do you mean this thing? Okay, yes, I did.
I don't know, I think the rest of it's pretty descriptive about her life, so an introduction to her is like the summary, I would say.
Okay.
I found, because I found the rest was very detailed, while the introduction is
Okay.
not so much.
I feel like given that they do explain what happens later in the manuscript, the introduction is a bit confusing if you don't know that information. So I feel like I would scrap the introduction and start with the second paragraph, which actually starts with the person, because if you don't know who Lillian Ngoyi is, that first paragraph makes no sense.
Okay. All right. What else is wrong? Okay, what are you going to indent the first paragraph?
No.
Okay, the first paragraph under a heading or under a table is usually, well, is not indented. The first paragraph of the chapter is never indented. It's called full out. Full out means it's to the full extent of the space that starts at your margin. Okay. Okay, second paragraph, even before she led, that would be indented, right? Lillian Ngoyi, that would be indented. Got that? Okay. Caption illustration, illustration 1.1 and caption in bold. Would you leave it in bold?
Don't you normally write captions in italics?
Yeah.
No, that's not the style of the caption. It's not the design of the caption. We're not discussing the design. I'm saying here, you're going to leave illustration 1.1 and caption in bold.
No, I thought you'd take it out. 'cause-
No, why? Why you don't? You keep it in bold. Why? Who's going to work on it after you?
Person doing this.
Yes, who are you going to make life easy for? To make sure that they've picked up where they're supposed to drop things in. Your typesetter. Okay, so let it stand out. It's fine. One thing you need to decide with the caption is, like the 4 women tried to hand over their petitions on 9 August 1956. Some captions have a full stop. Okay, some styles go for full stop, some styles go for no full stop, and some styles, which want to be difficult, but I favor, if it's a full sentence, takes a full stop, and if it isn't, doesn't take a full stop. Okay, so you need to go and say, okay, that's what I want in this book, and you write it on your style sheet. You record it. That's what I've done. I'm going for full stops, I'm going for no full stops. Okay, sometimes you've actually got a caption that actually includes a question mark. And that would happen in school textbooks, for example. What you see in the picture above, you know, where you want your reader to interact. So there you might have to think, okay, well, if I'm going to have question marks, I might as well have full stops for full sentences. Okay, it's up to you to look and make a decision, and try not to spend too long over making it if you can, but it can be quite difficult. Okay. All right, so I liked your thing about the intro. What about the level?
The brief said it was not for first language English
Yeah.
speakers, so I think some
And
of them-
how old are the people?
they're also 10 to 12.
12 to 15?
12 to 15? Okay.
Grade 8 to 12.
So, oh, by the way, we've got a choice here. Are we going to write Lillian and Goy every time? Or are we going to write Lillian? Or are we going to write Ngoyi? This is something that I had with these bios as well. Do I go for the first name, which makes it sound friendly and like, you know, the person? Or, and what I found a lot is that the men are given by their surname. You know, when they go through the bio, they get their surnames, and the women tend to become Natalie or Bongi or whatever.
Well, I have a habit from academic writing. You usually do the last name.
Yeah.
Even
genders
you
and
usually do the last name.
I would think for the
Regardless of
English.
But that's just from academic writing.
Yes. And for the bios, I've tried to go for the surnames, yeah.
So should we just pick one and stick to that?
Well, I don't know what you do with this age group.
I would say
Do you want to
Lillian.
make the person feel close to you and that you're close to them, or do you want to make them feel, it's not a matter of respect really, but it's a matter of,
It's getting into that habit of, I don't know, because it is a school textbook, so maybe if they get used to reading it, the last name won't be, because that was how it was for me in high school. It was usually like the first name or whatever, then varsity comes and it's, you refer to them as by the last name. So maybe that'll be a good habit.
We do the first name when we write our press releases at work. So that's actually quite interesting.
I was just struggling because these things were coming in at, you know, different times, and then, but even with the men, some of them used first names, but it tended to be a pattern. Men going to surname and women going to first name. So that's why I felt I had to apply corrective, but, okay.
Throughout the rest of the manuscript, it says Lillian. Lillian wanted Lillian
It does.
out,
So that's another, I mean, and there are another 2 chapters to this, hey? So if the other people who've been dealt with here are all talked about using their first name, and maybe you say, okay, well, you know what? Why must I make more work and cost the company extra money through all these corrections? Maybe it's fine at this level.
I feel like in high school you call your teachers Mrs.
Yeah.
that. So that's what I would move to. If that's how you show respect in high school, so
Yeah, but you're not going to call her
Yeah,
Mrs.
that's for me as well. It's like a respect
Yes, it is. There is a slight thing. You're trading off greater familiarity for greater respect. I'm just saying, you know, it's the kind of thing. And if you made that choice, then you would record it on your style sheets. Okay, we're getting there with the style sheet. Okay. Okay, so now what about the level of language? Lillian Ngoyi belongs in a central way to political, intellectual, and social tradition which was founded by Charlotte, and I'm not going to say the surname, in the early part of the 20th century. The tradition of placing and positioning, obviously, it's should be placing, and positioning women in a primary role in the making of political modernity in South Africa.
It's not all the target audience.
Yeah, way above, hey? Does it add anything?
No,
Do you need to say it in a different way?
It doesn't actually mean anything.
no, because it's all later. That's why I said introduction to us so much more.
I agree with you. Okay, we'll discuss the whole thing. I'm just going to go to early life. I'm going to go really quickly now. So even before she led, we said was indented. Comma, so if you've got one comma at the beginning of your parenthesis, you should say on August, so it wouldn't be on August 9, it would be on 9 August. Why are you lost? I'm on line 4. Line 4 after introduction.
So why 9th August?
So 9 August, and then you don't need a comma, 1956. So even before she led, on 9 August 1956, comma,
Even before she led what?
even before she led, on 9 August 1956,
Why that audit? Why that edit?
Sorry, the lead thing is
what's the problem?
I want to find out, how about writing on the 9th of August?
No. So that's what I was saying. Forget about these American ways. Let's go simplistic. If you've got an author who's given you a book and he said the 9th of this and the 9th of that, leave it. It's consistent. It's done. Nobody's going to cry because everybody understands it. Okay. But if you have a this and a that, people will use 5 different styles. Go for simplest. Okay, and dates are these things. So, and that's what you record, unless you make a different decision. Okay, right? So even before she led, on 9 August 1956, comma, together with Helen Joseph, Amina Kachalia, and Sophie Williams, a march of 20,000 women to the Union Buildings in Pretoria against the extension of past laws to women, an event that would bring women on the national stage of South African politics. Lillian Ngoyi was already viewed and appreciated as a major historical figure.
It should be an intro.
Yeah.
Actually, I think
That should have been an intro.
Lillian Ngoyi was already viewed and appreciated as a major historical figure even before she led the famous march on the 9th of
That's true.
August.
That's how I did it.
Okay, I'm going to shock you just now, but no, I'll leave it for next time. Okay, what about these people? Have you checked their names?
Helen Joseph, I think, was right.
Yeah.
Sophie Williams. Isn't it Sophie the
It's
Brain?
Sophie Williams,
It's
De Bruyn.
Sophie de Bruyn.
Sophie Williams De Bruyn.
Okay.
And because she was ignored for so long, it's absolutely essential to get her name right. Hey, I read about a very old lady who was also on the march recently. Did any of you see that? She was crucial, she was central. And she's been completely... She wasn't with the four carrying them, but she contributed hugely because actually it was one of the best organized marches in the history of South Africa. It was brilliantly organized. And they managed to keep it quiet and like have little, they walked to the Union Buildings in small groups so they wouldn't stand out as a big man. But they'd also prepared themselves, coming from all different areas of South Africa, little organizings. So wait, I'm carrying on for 2 seconds more. Okay. So Amina Kachalia should actually be Rahina Musa. Okay. Yes. So your name is wrong. Okay, shocking. 20,000 What style do you want for the thousands? Do you want a comma? Do you want a space?
And I think it's been pretty consistent throughout with the comma, so I guess it depends what word you want.
No, I think it depends on.
Too much. There's a comma right before the word march.
I don't think that's the point.
It's the style in
Yeah.
which you do it.
Okay, so that brings me to the next point. There's also something called a house style. So a lot of the people that you work for will have developed their own house style. So it's not all up to you. Okay. But if it was, if there wasn't a house style, then you could decide, and again you'd record it in your style sheet. Okay, I don't know what EBIT is doing there because there hasn't been anything before it. So EBIT,
What is
the
that?
same. It means EBIT in the same place. Okay, it's correct. It should be italics.
Where is it?
It's
Where?
EBIT at the end of the sentence.
Oh,
Historical figure in brackets. EBIT. Okay.
Oh,
So it doesn't actually belong. Okay, so if it did belong there, it should be in italic. The EBIT does have a full stop after it, and it's in brackets, which is fine. But since it doesn't actually belong there, you could just cross everything out.
Just remove it entirely.
Yeah, what's it referring to?
Yeah.
In the same place. It means the source for this is in the same place. But since it means this is a second source. This information comes from the same place, but you haven't given the place to start off with. So you don't want it there. Okay. Okay, the whole thing in the time of colonialism, which in South Africa ended around 1920, very problematic statement, right? Okay, so you should know something about. I would check that by whose standards. Why? Maybe the colonial period is still here in some other form. Okay. 1950 to 1960, can you see that? That needs an N rule there. You don't have a hyphen, you have an N rule.
And what is that?
N, like an N. It's the width of an N in any font. It's to show from this to that. Pages 35 to 36, N rule.
Whoa.
Is it in rule?
N, like the letter N.
So a longer line.
Okay, so it's twice the length of a hyphen. Okay, it's in fact the width. I didn't mean to say the length there. Sorry, the width. Twice the width of a hyphen. It's the width in most fonts. In nearly all fonts, it's the width of a capital M. Okay, and you have something that's even bigger than that, twice the size of an N rule, which is called an M rule. Good. And that's twice the size. I mean, sorry, that's not twice
It's
the
the
size.
size of a
That's the width of a capital M. Thank you. Okay.
So you recommend that at some
Eastern
point-
Cape takes a capital. Okay, you need to think about, do I need any glossary entries?
I know there's what needs to be a index.
I think we should do
Glossary. Okay, it needs to be, you need to explain vocabulary that's difficult, that's glossary.
Yeah, especially
For this, for future. And let me tell you, it's such a good exercise to do as an editor. It just really, okay. But we're not going to do a lot of these changes because we're going to strike out and rewrite that whole beginning. Why? Because it's useless. Okay, because it chucks information. Here's a bit of this, that, and I throw in colonialism, the vocabulary is far too high, the structure of the sentences is all wrong. Okay.
But wouldn't you start with that? Wouldn't you start with a rewriting and then do this? Because I feel like
Yes.
that's just doubling it.
No, but yes, but that's because I'm teaching you. Okay. So obviously, I'm showing you what I would look up for and what you put in a style sheet. Okay. But I'm also saying, okay, we've gone through all that now, and actually, okay. But
so
you
in
need to
real
go
life-
through the process.
In real life, we would start by
I
rewriting
would.
and then go.
I would. No, in real life, I'll probably start going, oh, yeah. And then after about 10 minutes, I'd go, not okay. Okay. So, I'll tell you what I would start with. Please Okay, go over this again. We'll continue next time. We're going to do that. And then I will do more of the, I'll try and do all your handouts for you, and I'll also,
So do you want us to like edit like we've been doing now when we go over, or do you want us to just read it and become familiar with it?
no, I think you need to get further now. Okay, so you need to go over it again. This is now the second time. Surely you want to write some more now. Okay, so do go over it again. Read the instructions for the exam, all the things you need to produce. Know everything about the context of the book this time, so you're not going, I'm not sure, okay. And then carry on writing comments about things that you would change. Okay, so do what you did for the bios, but just now we've got a continuous piece of text at school level.
So can we like start rewriting?
Tati, you were an interventionist editor.
So badly written, it was so horrible to try and read. Not yet. Okay.
Sorry, it's at a low level and it needs more work than anything at a higher level, doesn't it? Because of the readership. And this is the case with a lot of educational material in South Africa.